bring in Rami Khouri, who's a distinguished public policy fellow at the American University of Beirut. He joins me live from Boston. Welcome to you, Rami. So, I mean, the claim there is from our correspondent that Donald Trump wants to get this onto phase 2 and quickly because nothing good is happening in phase 1. I mean, do you agree with that? And how do you think he's going to push it on?
Well, Neil, it's really difficult to be sure of anything coming out of the American presidency. He's very erratic. He's very inconsistent. The way he spoke today about Hamas and the Palestinians and about his ability to go in and obliterate them was not just a reflection of the kind of immature level of his knowledge of foreign policy, but it reflected a cartoon type of interaction. He spoke like you'd hear Popeye speak on a cartoon or Superman. I mean, it was really quite disgraceful for a superpower to talk like this, but this is what we have. He is the president. He has tremendous authority. He's bombed Iran and he's helped the Israelis carry out the genocide. But at the same time, he's pushing to implement all of the elements of the phase 1 of the ceasefire agreement. So he definitely seems to want the ceasefire to work, but he's not really forcing the Israeli government to keep its side of the deal. He talks about it. He sends Witkoff and Kushner, which is not necessarily a positive development from my perspective as a Palestinian American. Though these two are very pro-Israeli, fanatics in many ways, but they favor Israel rather than an impartial agreement. So they maybe can do good things, maybe not. Their track record is not very good in either, reasonable agreements or keeping their word. So they're
Rami, if the US is going to send, representatives over, shouldn't they be talking to Hamas? Because Israel holds all the power. It has all the weaponry. It's doing almost all of the killing. If there's going to be a conversation, shouldn't it be with the side that doesn't have much power to wield?
Yes, and this has been the problem since 1920, when the British were the colonial power helping the Zionists, and then now the Americans helping the Israelis, that the Palestinian side, there was no Hamas then, but the Palestinian people don't exist as real people in the eyes of the American government or any of the Western colonial powers historically. This is why this conflict has gone on for over 100 years now. And we saw it yesterday and today in Trump's really cartoon-like descriptions of what he would do, and Hamas is violent and stuff. So, and this is chronic. It's kind of structural in the American support for Israel for many reasons, but it's breaking down because massive support around the world for justice for the Palestinians, Western countries recognizing Palestine. There's many symbols of people around the world who don't want this kind of colonial, cartoon-like, military, racist, apartheid violence to continue and to keep talking about the Palestinians as lesser than human beings. The Palestinians don't have the capacity to respond to this, but they have not disappeared either.
If you look at the numbers, Rami, I think that what we had was the reports of 2 Israeli soldiers killed and at least 44, 45 Palestinians died. I mean, that's very one-sided in terms of death toll in what we call a conflict. Why is the President of the United States throwing all of his anger at one side that reportedly killed 2 people and supporting the side that's carrying out a genocide quite clearly?
This is one of the great questions that challenges all analysts and political scientists and people who follow this conflict for the last 100 years or for the last 5 years or whatever. The US and many of the European governments are structurally committed to Israeli Zionist, militaristic, and nationalistic and territorial superiority and priority over the Palestinians. And not just in Palestine, in Lebanon, in Syria, and other lands as well. So this is something that's been going on really since the 1920s. And it's reached a peak now because you've had this Hamas offensive, which, they carried out their October 23 attack, and in return, the Israelis have murdered, probably over 150,000 people and destroyed, obliterated Gaza. The level of destruction and cruelty and savagery that Israel has conducted with the direct enthusiastic support of the United States is unprecedented. We haven't seen this since Hiroshima, or maybe some of the bombings in Dresden in Europe in World War II. And this is done with the direct formal approval and assistance of the United States. And Trump is now repeating, well, I'll go in there and I'll obliterate these people and I'll wipe them out and, I'll kick their butt. And so there is this deep structural bias towards the Israelis. And there's many, many explanations that have been given why this is. None of them are fully convincing on their own, but it's a combination of things. But the important thing is that all of the reasons why Western powers have been so virulently pro-Israeli and anti-Palestinian are changing, like South African support, world support for the apartheid government in South Africa changed. This is changing, and it's changing very slowly, but it's forced the United States and the Europeans to start to engage the Palestinians. So what we've seen in this first phase of the ceasefire agreement is a really important observation or reflection of a willingness of the United States at one level to actually engage with what the Palestinians want. And if you look at the elements of, we don't have time to get into it now, but the elements of the first phase include elements that Israel said it would never do, but it's done them. It was forced to do them by Palestinian resistance, by global support for Palestine, and by American pressure. That combination has never existed before, but it exists now. So the question is, how far will this go? Many people fear that the Israelis and the Americans are waiting for all of the bodies. I think there's 15 more bodies to be found and returned to the Israelis. And after those are returned, people worry that Israel, with the U.S. support, as Trump has said he's willing to do, would resume the genocidal assault on Palestine. I mean, this would be catastrophic, not just for the Palestinians, but morally and politically for the Western powers. So we'll hope that doesn't happen, but we'll have to wait and see how things develop.
Rami, always good to speak to you. Thanks for your insights. Rami Khouri from the American University of Beirut.
Thank you, Neil.